this one place, and we didn't even walk in. We looked in, and again, it was just the bartender. Nobody else in there. So we didn't even, we looked in and just kept walking. We ended up getting over to Frenchman Street, and there was one place that we knew that would, it was called the Dragon's Den, and it was like a Thai restaurant downstairs and like a little nightclub upstairs where they played a lot of swing and blues and kind of music. And we get there, we walk up the stairs, and they want a $5 cover charge. Well, we had never paid a cover charge, and definitely didn't want to do it that night. So we just kind of turn around and go back down the stairs, and we end up going to this other place, kind of across the street from that. And it's called Checkpoint Charlie's. And this place, again, it was more of a local dive kind of place, But
it's where all the famous would go and play for free just to hang out with the locals. It was that kind of a dive. So it was, it was well known, and yet it was always something was going on there. Now, Chad and I, we lived in the quarter, but we didn't live in these clubs and these bars. This was unusual for us to be out that evening, just so people know this wasn't our lifestyle. But we had been to these places enough to know the environment, and not on this night. This night was completely different.
Right, and we still haven't had a drink. We still haven't had anything to eat. Now this is about 11 o'clock. It's kind of the last memory we have collectively. So we've only been out an hour and a half, and we've walked, 18 some odd blocks, in and around the quarter. And so, it's not like we were out partying. We were trying to find the party, I guess. Well, we end up going over to the Checkpoint Charlie's place, and again, we look in. They have a doorman and the bartender.
They've never had before. They've never had a doorman before.
Yeah, and he's this young guy. Now this is a
cute blonde guy like our girlfriend that's with us.
Yeah, and he's this little guy, and to be a doorman, you usually have this big burly kind of person that hang out. But
again, they've never had one that we know of.
Right.
And there's no people inside this place. So at this stage, we leave our friend to stand and visit with him. They are getting along, it looks like, friendly, and I'm thinking, well, all's not lost. At least there's somebody cute for her to talk to, because this is bizarre. Neither one of us, and I'm speaking for Chad, he's asked me to kind of pick this up, neither one of us are thinking anything paranormal, anything high strangeness, other than this is just weird. And where is everybody? We just keep saying that. At that point now, Chad and I walk away, and I see a little stoop kind of halfway down the block. I head for it. Chad's walking with me, and I'm telling him kind of under my breath, I'm so bored, I just want to go home. I don't even want to walk the blocks back to our townhouse. I just want to catch a cab and go home. That's how badly I just wanted to go home. As Chad said, it's around 11 o'clock. And as he also said, that's the last memory the three of us have collectively. It's 11 o'clock. We're on that street. And I'm saying, I just want, like Dorothy, I just want to go home. And then the next thing I know, it's the next morning, somewhere between 8 and 9 in the morning.
Now,
I'm now sitting straight.
Then in the morning, were you back in your apartment?
Right. I'm sitting straight up in my living room, cross-legged, Indian style. And I say this as often as I'm allowed to, that anybody will hear us. I didn't wake up. I came to. My eyes popped open. I'm rubbing my arms, and I could feel something in my upper arm that was definitely not there, to the best of my knowledge, before the night before. I'm absolutely flipping out because I have a very distinct memory. So fast-forwarding this, I seem to be the only one out of the three of us that would have what I call a memory of the in-between. Nothing about coming off the street and nothing about being returned home. But I have this full-blown memory of in-between.
Now, Alta, I got to ask you a question here. I mean, did you have a few drinks before or you didn't have many drinks at all that night or anything? Would maybe account for whatever happened?
Right. No, sir, we had nothing. We had nothing. And we've been challenged, of course, about all of it, and I don't blame anybody. That's why we try to stay public about this, just telling our truth. But we also say, right along with all of that, not only not alcohol, we didn't have drugs, nor did there appear to be anybody around to drug us, because that would have been welcomed, I assure you, after everything we've been through. But that was not our story.
And again, when you do drink or you party or whatever,
we're no saints.
We're no saints.
Right.
We were looking for the party. But when you do drink, you wake up the next morning and you feel funny, or you don't just blank out like,
right.
1 second you're fine and the next second you're like gone. I mean,
right.
It doesn't happen that fast.
Right.
And that's what just happened.
Instantaneous.
Yeah.
My eyes popped open. So, as I say, I'm in a state of, I can't describe the state I'm in. I've got memory. I got something in my upper arm. What has happened? And then the terror of where is Chad and where is our friend? Because I don't see them. I'm in my apartment. I don't see them. So I'm going through all of that. Try to speed the story up when I finally realize, when I'm able to, there's a lot in between, but at some point, Chad is in bed, thank the heavens. But our friend is missing. She's not in our apartment. So I come to, Chad wakes up. We meet each other kind of as we're moving towards each other, me in a state of controlled terror, Chad in a very fuzzy looking face as he's coming towards me. And I see him looking at me, and at this point, we've been together a long time. We know each other. And I'm waiting for him to explain something to me. He's doing the same thing. He's looking at me as a man would look to a woman. Chad is a responsible person. He's looking at me to explain to him how we got home. And he actually says it to some degree in a very fuzzy voice, kind of. I could hear the puzzle in him. I could hear everything. And so I'm now kind of coming apart at the seams. And I'm telling him, and I'm showing him my arm, my upper arm. I've got something in my arm. Well, there's no entrance wound. There's no blood. There's nothing. But I got something in my upper arm. Chad walks around me, and because he was able to walk around me looking at my arms, I was too busy, in the terror and the panic of just dealing with the front of my body. I didn't take time to check my body out before I got to Chad. So as he's walking around me, Chad, if you'll describe what you saw.
They were hand marks, bruises, handprint on both of our arms. And now they were only 4 digits. They were very long. They went all the way around her arm. And it was as if somebody was holding her, up, or, again, they didn't last very long. They were only there for a day or two.
And I'll just interject, people all these years asked us for photos and so on, and I just would like to mention, again, to anybody kind enough to hear us, we're in a state of terror. We're in a state of pure panic, and where is our friend? Nobody's thinking about nothing else other than that. Nothing else. And so Chad and I buried ourselves into our home for 2 days. I was off for the next 2 days. That seemed convenient. Thank the heavens, I didn't have to go to work for the next 2 days. So in our state of fear, we had food in the quarter. They deliver food. We had food delivered to us. We never left. We were so confused and so afraid. And where do you go? This was 1997. I have to say to you, where are we, 2019? We wouldn't know where to go now. And we've tried.
Well, back then, if you told people back around that, because, I've been doing, radio since 1976. And I started out, my first show was paranormal. But, wow. I can say that if you mention it to people, especially back then, because of the internet, people are more, people say, hey, I saw a UFO, I saw a Bigfoot, I saw a dogman or whatever. People accept it. They don't look at you like you're crazy. Sometimes you look at somebody like maybe they're exaggerating a little bit, but you don't look at them as crazy. But back in that time frame, if you went and told people, well, we were walking home or we were, and I don't remember how we got home. And then all of a sudden I feel like something is in my arm. It wasn't there before. People would start looking at you back then. They really would.
Oh, boy. Well, so we're having thank you for that, that understanding. And again, on top of that, we're also going through this, where is she? Because we have a friend that's missing, and there's no answering any of that. And so for a couple of days, Chad and I are back and forth with, we hate to add this part to the story, but it is the truth. We were so afraid. Chad's like, are you going to call her? No, I'm not going to call her. You call her. No, you call her. Because we were so afraid. We didn't even know what to do. And so this is pre-cell phone stuff. We don't call. We just stay quiet for 2 days. We don't have any idea what's happened to us. Who knows what's happening to us and who's going to do it again? And what are they doing? And who's they? And what is this? Insanity. 2 days later, I go to work, and there she is. She's at work. And I just mentioned, again, my take on this, and it's just my take on it, is maybe the age difference. At that point is when I realized, because I'm a very youthful for my age person, always have been, and I've always chalked it up to I never had children. Who knows? But that was the first time I think I really took note of the difference in our age, because she was handling it, I feel, like a 24-year-old would. Very cool, very calm. She just took the time to just process. She told me she knows that something happened to us. She repeated to me what she remembered, and she remembered it as we remembered it. Her memory is much more lax than both mine and Chad, but she sounds much foggier. And again, no alcohol, no drugs, but she's much foggier in trying to recount that hour and a half that we were trying to get across the border. Her lights are seems to be going out fairly quickly. And yet, in the experience, when we're having that hour and a half with each other, she's right there with us. We're all tuned in. It's not like anybody's checking out. And so anyhow, she just told me she knows that something happened, but that's good enough for her. She doesn't need any more. Well, that's not my story. And Chad hasn't really, I don't think, had a lot of choice, because he's, married to me, and he's been a good partner, because this has been so bizarre. We then try to speed this story up. We leave New Orleans. There's a whole lot in between. But we end up moving to Alabama in 2001. Chad's family lived there. He's going to go to work for his dad. We relocate. Now we're out in the middle of, I like to say, kind of no man's land, Alabama. A small bedroom community of a big city, lake community. So this is where we're living. We found a home. We're buying a home, kind of out in the boonies. And I can't let anything go. I'm on my own. I don't know how to use computers for the most part. And I'm just trying to figure out what the hey and to get help. And I don't even know what I'm looking for. I got something in my body. We've got missing time. So anyhow, I find somebody on behalf of Chad that is willing to give him regression, hypnotic regression. Again, anybody that's hearing us, please remember how naive we are and were. We're not any longer, but we were.
Uh-huh.
This young woman, she's lovely. We work out an agreement in payment. In this case, she's going to drive a couple hours from where she lives to our home, make it very convenient for all of us. She comes to our home. She and Chad go into a private room, and they start the regression. This is going to be, of course, tape recorded. That story went very south. That tape recording was so low, it's hurtful try to hear it. She had it on as low a volume as possible. Now the